Don't like the card stock.
Yeah.
One bit.
That seems to be the common complaint right now, is the card stock's pretty much garbage.
I will say it does generate too much analysis paralysis at the moment for me.
I'm not finding it analysis paralysis. I think I wasn't discarding my exiling my starting deck stuff all the time.
That's why I asked you if you were. Right?
Yeah, I know I didn't with those guys, because I know I specifically...
No, I was saying in general, because you seem to have them more than you should have.
There was a couple that did definitely come back, which sucks because I had other cards that would have been better to come back.
Yeah.
But, yeah, no, I would...
I'm finding it's not a game for me, but as a critical analysis, I do like the moon system. I think once you accustom to it, it does have an easy enough flow, and it's not as fiddly as other things where you're trying to manage things, you're just playing off of them. So I think once you get accustomed to how it flows, I think it can flow very easily. I love the interactivity, which has been missing from a lot of deck building games. But overall, I don't find it's a game for me as a player. It doesn't hit any particular sweet spot for me.
Rob?
I actually hate the moon dislike the moon system. It's I think it's just overcomplicated. I find it's not going to be a game that is going to appeal to a larger mass. It's going to require a very hardcore gamer in order to play this game. Low-level gamers will not get the moon system at all at first. This comes from a person who's played quite a bit of the deck building games already, and this is the only one that's ever given me any troubles on its flow. The flow is not as smooth at first, and that's what I think is going to be the biggest issue for most gamers. I really don't think this is the game for me, but I don't mind the PvP, the interactivity. That's great. Just I think the system is there's something missing from the system to make it flow better and make it more easier to comprehend for a typical gamer.
Okay. I actually quite like the moon system. I think it's a good flow to the game. I understand the analysis paralysis portion of it, but I think with 3 or 4 plays, it's going to be something that eventually ends up being a learning curve and leaves the equation. The game as a whole, it actually I like the flow. I like the cards. I like it. It's a game I like. It departs from all the standard deck building, thin your deck, buy the money, play a million actions, and then pass it to the next person model that all the other deck building games I've played use, making it an actual interactive experience as a board game rather than multiplayer solitaire. Alright, so final rating, T.
Final rating, I think it definitely holds merit. I think it'll be a top-rated game, but it's not a game for me. I would give it 4 out of 5 stars.
Okay.
But on terms of production, I would give it a 3 out of 5. It's very lacking in the card stock, the cut quality, and I do like the design of the cards though. I like the slashing on to mark the hit points so that you don't need like little counters or anything. I like that they built it into the card.
Rob, final score?
I'd go with 2.5 to 3 out of 5, based on the principle that the game isn't really designed for the average player. It's going to be difficult for a newer player to comprehend. So I don't think that it's going to appeal to the masses.
Okay. My final would have been 4, but based on production values, definitely is 3.5. Yeah. I think the play is fine and everything else, and it's definitely a perfectly cromulent game. Right?
And you worded the day toilet paper.
Alright, and that is our first play. Okay, so played our second game, so we're going to do second game reactions now. T, would you like to start us off?
So as we were kind of just talking about, I did find the game kind of just ended abruptly. Alton Hickman really sped up the game because there was no blocking him, so he just kind of went to town in people's faces.
two turns of 6 damage straight through.
Yeah. You know, the moon system second playthrough, it played a little smoother. I like the system, but I don't know. I can't explain why, but the game does not strike any kind of sweet spot for me. The kickers, I find, needlessly complicates things for new players, where they tend to focus on it too much. Yeah, I don't know. Still the same level for me.
Okay, Rob?
Still think that the moon system is overcomplicated for players, especially for new players, especially with the kickers.
I think it's just the kickers that makes it complicated.
I'll give you that. Like the second play around, it makes more sense, the moon system, but the kickers do make it overcomplicated. There's too much going on there. It makes it way too difficult to get into it in the first place. Game really didn't hit, like you said. Doesn't really jump out to me. Still not a big fan of it. It didn't, not as much hatred in the second game as the first game, but it's still not a game I would choose to play by any means. I'd give it an Alton Hickman needs to die. Stupid 6 damage straight through ending the game. But I'll upgrade it from a 2.5 to 3 to a 3, in my opinion. You know, card stock is still garbage.
Yeah, my reactions after the second play, I have to agree, the kicker system does needlessly complicate the moon system. I like the idea of the chaining and, you know, actually having interactivity when you play with other players. But the kickers just add an unneeded level of complication.
I think it would have made a great expansion scene to add the kickers.
Yeah.
And I can understand that they might have wanted to add a little more depth to the game with the kickers, but I think it does put a damper on the initial phase of introducing someone to the game. It makes it a lot harder.
It definitely.
It's like trying to teach someone Dominion with seaside cards and the durations.
That's actually a good example.
Actually, yeah, that would make it better if it had been the expansion adding the kickers, and that way not every single card has a kicker.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Every card having a kicker is just too overwhelming.
All right, and my final rating's actually been downgraded from a 3.5 to a 3. I understood the game more, but I'm seeing it being needlessly complicated, and I like the PvP aspect of it and not the kickers but the moon system. I find the game actually feels too short. Both plays just felt like the game was too short. I guess being used to games like Ascension and Dominion and that can drag on for a long period of time.
Yeah.
The game just does not. It plays way too fast. The drafting mechanic is amazing. I like that a lot. I like having a personal archive with the 2 cards that only you can buy.
Unless they're stolen.
unless they're stolen by the one game effect that steals them.
Go Indigo 6.
But yeah, no, I will have to downgrade it to a 3 though for my final. 3 out of 5 for my final.
Yeah, that's the thing. I like all the pieces individually. I like the PvP aspects. I like the card designs. I like the moon system. I like how once you get accustomed to it, it can flow so easily.
Yeah.
But as a whole, I just don't find it meshing well.
And we had a couple of very interesting turns where 3 or 4 things got played over here, 3 or 4 things over here, 3 or 4 things over here, and then the resolution was interesting.
Yeah.
But the kickers ended up, people were like, oh, am I kickering this? Am I kickering that? What is that? You know, the kickers weren't needed. The moons are cool. The chaining is cool. Individual pieces are amazing, but the game itself, medium, kind of good. It's not a bad game, but it's not a great game. It's not going to win Spiel des Jahres anytime soon.
It's not the game that you're going to go to on your shelf.
No, it really isn't. I would probably rather play Resident Evil over this.
It would probably...
I'm not a fan of Resident Evil that much, and I would actually choose this over Resident Evil.
All right.
But I would choose Dominion or Thunderstone or Ascension over.
I don't think of a single deck building game that I would choose below this that I've played. So.
Okay.
I mean, if I were to put this on my shelf, I wouldn't. I think $10 would be about my limit. I know, like production-wise, it's worth more than that, but I wouldn't pick it up to put on my shelf for more than 10.
What's your price point?
Probably, I wouldn't buy it to be perfectly honest, but I'd say the price point is like Matt just said, 10.
Yeah.
But I probably still wouldn't choose to put it on my shelf. For $10, I've got other things I'd put on my shelf.
Yeah, I think I'd put it on for $10, but it would collect the inch of dust. Easy. I have a lot of games collecting dust on my shelf. This would be one of them if I bought it.
But I do definitely think it'll hit its niche market, and it'll be very popular. It'll be like one of those kind of cult classic type feels where it's going to hit a niche market, and they're going to absolutely love it.
It'll hit the Vampire the Masquerade crowd. To be perfect, that's how I see it.
It hits an interesting note, but
I don't think it's the theme that much that.
the theme is great, but
yeah, the theme fits very nicely, but I don't think the theme carries it.
Theme is what draws someone's eye first.
Yes, but I don't think the theme carries the game.
No, I didn't even think of the theme when we were playing.
Yeah.
The theme basically wasn't even the game. I just figured, colors and color to trigger color.
The theme is not directly responsible for the game, and the game is not directly responsible for the theme. The theme is pasted on to a series of mechanics.
Yeah.
It's not dripping with theme like some games, but it does feel very mechanical as far as the theme goes.
Yeah.